Welcome to Conscious Marketing Movement podcast, where we bring you thought-provoking conversations to challenge traditional marketing practices and inspire a new paradigm, shaping the future of marketing for a better tomorrow. In our first season, we'll explore how can marketing drive climate action. We'll be talking with sustainability communicators, brand strategists, designers, all sharing their knowledge and first-hand experiences. So whether you're listening to us at home with your favorite beverage or on your daily commute, make yourself comfortable and enjoy the episode.
Welcome everyone to Conscious Marketing Movement podcast, and today we have a very special episode because we are reacting of what is happening right now with Black Friday, with Cyber Monday, and of course Christmas coming up. And it is a very dear and passionate and triggering topic for myself and Claudia included. So welcome, Claudia. Thank you so much for finding time to talk to me today and dive deep into Black Friday.
Thank you so much for having me, Daiva. It's a pleasure to discuss this very triggering topic with you. And we are so passionate about, using Black Friday as a chance for brand activism. And I can't wait to, discuss this further with you, because how can we really use Black Friday for good? It sounds impossible, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I think that's what we need to do. And yeah, before we dived in, just a small disclaimer that any brands or show names that we're going to be mentioning today, in no way we are endorsing them. It just comes as probably good or quote-unquote not so good examples in this space. And it is going to be a very honest, unscripted conversation. All right. Where do we start? I guess at the very beginning, I would like to ask you as a phase and also a founder of Conscious Marketing Movement, of the concept of conscious marketing, why Black Friday is such an important topic that you want to talk about.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing this, Daiva. I think Black Friday represents a lot of what we don't endorse in the conscious marketing movement during this period of time. So Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas, and so on. We see a lot of promotions, very, very heavy promotions that are all about triggering people to take action to buy something that they don't need. And there's very, very heavy discounts, right? There are brands that do 99% off and things like that. I remember Shein a couple of years back did a campaign that was 99% off. Like, how is that even possible? How can you make any profit when you do discounts this high? So it makes us question, like, how much profit are brands really making if they can do discounts of 99% off, doesn't it? Like, I think any brand that does discount more than 30% off, it makes me kind of question, how much are they overcharging people, right?
And also it kind of, for me, it feels like a small door opening to the dark side of these big brands, of these big corporations, what is actually happening behind closed doors in their offices, in their meeting rooms, and especially in their marketing departments. If they can give so much stuff away, how much do they produce and what's the price of it? At the end of the day, although we are all consumers, which is, again, a questionable term where maybe we can unpack a little bit later, but it is businesses' responsibility when it comes to Black Friday. You can't really put all the guilt on the consumer and say, this is your fault. So, and this is what I really want to kind of dig deep in this episode with you, and maybe together look of what are the solutions? Where does it start in the company? Or if you are a marketer that understand the problem and want to do the practices more ethically, more consciously, like where do you start? Can you maybe unpack that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely, Daiva. Thank you again. So, there's been a lot of campaigns out there by nonprofits and by businesses, taking a stand against Black Friday. So this kind of anti-Black Friday movement, which is really great. I think they are doing amazing work, and we need more education work on why Black Friday is not the best solution. But the thing is, I feel a little bit let's say, tired of this perspective that people are the ones at fault, when in fact there are marketeers, communication professionals, and the brands in general. They know what they are doing, right? We know consumer behavior, we know psychology. So this is not unintentional. This is very intentional, how campaigns are done. And so what I would like us to rethink is we can say no, right? If someone is telling us that we need to do 60% off or whatever it is, we have the ability to at least question, like, is that right? Like, does that feel right? Or should we just push back, you know? Because one of the things that we see a lot around the Black Friday, Cyber Monday period is that a lot of sustainability, so-called sustainability brands engage into Black Friday and do also a lot of discounts and heavy discounts because sustainability should be discounted somehow. And I see a lot of, let's call it greenwashing out there around Black Friday, which is like, buy this, sustainable fashion T-shirts and save our world with 60% off and whatsoever. And this is just not the message that I would love us to embrace as conscious marketeers and fellow marketeers out there. I would love us to rethink it, because aren't we part of the overall problem as well? If we are still doing heavy discounts around this period, even if it's sustainable brands, like, isn't it contributing anyway to the mass consumption that we have on our planet, right? Like, we need to question ourselves on this. And for example, the conscious marketing movement has a membership, right, for the online community. And for us, instead of, doing this heavy discounts and whatsoever, what we do is we have a diversity, equity, inclusion membership, which is up all year, and if someone cannot afford our membership, they can simply apply to this day membership, tell us why they need it, and they can get the membership either for free or to a discounted price, so that they can assess all of the resources that we have, the connections and so on. And so, of course, there's no, easy solutions for us, but it's a call to action for small businesses to also think, like, is there a way that my brand, my sustainable brand, can provide accessible prices all year round, instead of waiting for this moment in time to provide accessible prices to their potential customers, right? Because, sustainability is an all-year problem, not just a Black Friday problem, right?
Exactly, and I think Black Friday especially, I just feel it now, it becomes such a kind of movement and anti-movement. It's a symbol of consumerism. It has its own kind of identity and a brand and message. So if you're a smart brand, and especially if you're doing sustainability practices, maybe you're selling sustainability services, you really don't want to be associated with it, because essentially what it says, hey, we want a healthier world and a healthier planet and happier communities, but buy this, but also consumerism is good. So you're literally sending like two very contradicting messages to them, and you are probably alienating the customers you kind of want to inspire in the first place. It's really not a good marketing move, and it really does more damage to sustainable brands out there. You just don't want to be associated with Black Friday. And I would go even further, and I would say do the opposite. Use this day, as you said, to do something inspiring. You can organize a day with your colleagues to go out in nature and do a team building experience, or you can do a cleanup in your area. You can really use this day to show your audiences what you stand for, and in that way you're uniting them.
I was just thinking, like, taking a step back in the things that you just said. Yes, brand reputation ends up being damaged, right?
Exactly.
Because when you're doing heavy discounts, what are your other customers going to think about these heavy discounts? Because they bought your product or service in May, and suddenly it's 50% off. Like, does that feel right for your existing customers? It's also a very interesting question, because, here at the Conscious Marketing Movement, we are all about satisfying the existing needs of our customers, right? And, we want them to be happy with their purchase and not feel that they were triggered just to buy this, and then they're not happy about it. But on the opposite, when people are happy about the product or service that they bought, they will very likely tell their friends, their peers, their family members, and so on, So word of mouth is still a very, very important part of the marketing industry. Even if they don't buy the brand at the end, even if your friends don't buy the brand, it's already creating this positive reputation around it, right? And it's creating the brand awareness. And so it's very puzzling to me that the marketing industry still prioritizes these short wins, which is like, okay, we get all of the sales done on Black Friday and then we are good for the year or whatever, I don't know, whatever is the thinking behind it. But, in the long term, their reputation is going to be damaged because they were maybe this like quality brand, and suddenly they are this heavy discounted brand that does not prioritize quality. So I would invite like small businesses and corporations as well, but our focus is on small businesses to think about, do you want a brand that has long-term impact, long-term customers, or do you want to survive just now and don't look another year ahead of you, right? It does take more time for us to get somewhere, but we do get there, right? Because it's about the journey. It's about the slow growth. It's about, inspiring people to be part of the things that we do, educate them, intentional purchases, and so on. And I'm not saying that it's easy because, we are asking perhaps a lot from marketeers in the marketing industry. But I think right now we are also not asking enough.
Very well said. And I think it's like, it's also the same with companies that want to become more sustainable. You can't just transition within the day. It takes time. And unfortunately, a lot of companies that I see, they're like, okay, the regulations are coming in. We need to do these things. We need to have our sustainability reports in place. And they do it because of the pressure and because of the regulation, but there's just such an overwhelm of like where even to start. And the advice that I like to give people with my teams is to say, just do exactly what you just said. Just take step by step. Do something better. Then, you don't have to do it all. You don't have to become this very sustainable and brand activist brand within a night. It's just not realistic. So taking small steps, and the first step is just do not participate at Black Friday. It's that simple. Look at your yearly sales, position yourself as a brand that quality over quantity, and in the long term it will bring you much better results. But I was curious, just to play a bit of a devil's advocate, what do you think about discounts in general? We see them all the time. We even see, especially things like early bird being used in any sector. If you're selling, tickets to the festival, especially when something's quite limited, you got an early bird and people purchase it straight away. And I'm guilty as a customer, it's like, okay, I'm going to grab this ticket sooner because the price goes up. What do you think? How should we move maybe away from it altogether, or again apply small steps strategy?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's hard, right? Because the first thing is that we are overly focused on the price. Like we really focus a lot on the price to our customers, to it's just a big focus in everything we do when it comes to marketing. And it's interesting because you see people across the world, maybe in more marginalized communities and so on, they are able to get iPhones and whatsoever. So my question is, does the price really matter if someone wants it? So, I mean, not to say that discounts are wrong or right, because I don't think there's an easy right answer to that. It's very context specific. But I think as an industry, I would love us to rethink the big focus that we have on prices, so that we can transit into a value-driven kind of world, and that brands have a different kind of focus. Because if someone wants to support your brand, they will find a way. They will find a way. Even if your website is broken, they will find a way if they like you, right? So I think we kind of underestimate that. power, of someone resonating with other person and, taking action on it. Because at the end of the day, people buy from people they get inspired from, they like, they want to support, that they are their peers and whatsoever, right? It's really about bringing this more human perspective into marketing, because I think we forgot, that we are human in marketing at the end of the day. I just would love us to take those baby steps to move away from this discounted world, at least, and bring more values into the picture.
Thank you for bringing that perspective of we are definitely overly focused on pricing and money aspect, and it's just a kind of a symbol and a mirror to the whole society and what we are about at the moment as well. Because back in the day, maybe it wasn't like that. Marketing was so much bigger, and a marketeer had a very strong place at the table, driving the whole vision. Now marketing is only kind of sales. It's very kind of going hand in hand with sales department, and a lot of marketeers, and myself included, when the client comes, very often, the request is like, are you going to bring me sales? And this is very interesting to see how, what else is important there? What about your brand reputation? What about your long-term existence? What about your messaging? What about your values and building community and all these other different aspects that are out there, that it's so important for a successful purpose-led business.
Yeah, totally. I remember living in Singapore for quite some time, and there we have discounts on a regular basis. So they do this thing like 11/11, 12/12. There's discounts like the whole year based on this, and it's really like, yeah, are we focused on the wrong thing here? I really feel that there has to be a better way, and I love this approach that you have just shared, and I'm sure that there are many others doing amazing work in this scene that would love to hear more from, and really how can we transform the industry together.
I also wanted to bring us into another reason why it's not so good for brands to participate in Black Friday. I found statistics by YouGov. Poll found that 42% of people believe now that Black Friday purchases are detrimental to the environment, and half acknowledge that it contributes to landfill waste. So 42%, this is UK statistics, okay, I'm not talking for the whole world, but it's nearly half. So we are talking about the changing mindset of consumer. So if you are a brand that really, wants to be successful and contribute to positive changes, you watch what customers are asking you. And it's just kind of obvious. So I'm still very surprised that there's so much science that comes into these researches. There's teams and teams of looking through so much data, looking at the current market and finding these numbers that are quite high. So let's listen to what people want as well.
Yeah, and it goes back to this idea that we are often discussing, Daiva, that it's so important to do market research, right? To listen to your customers and potential customers, and we just don't do that enough. We do a lot of assumptions in the marketing industry, not just because of marketeers, but also the pressures around us.
Yeah, maybe it's a widely known campaign that has been really controversial again, why we shouldn't be focused so much on the consumer, but rather on the business's responsibility. In 2000, BP, British Petroleum, with the help of advertising agency Ogilvy and Mather, popularized the concept of the carbon footprint. The campaign encouraged individuals to calculate and reduce their own carbon emissions, and critics argue that this was a strategic effort to deflect attention from the oil and gas industry's significant contributions to greenhouse gas emissions and place the burden of responsibility on consumers. So I just find it so triggering to see that, again, businesses and marketers played a massive role to shift our attention and say, it's your fault, download this app, calculate your carbon footprint, which I'm not saying it's a bad thing. We also encourage conscious consuming on the individual level too, but compared to the damage that these big companies do, it's nearly, you can't really compare these numbers.
It's to distract us at the end of the day, to distract the people, that, the individuals, with other statistics and making it their fault. And at the end of the day, we do need to take responsibility as brands and as marketeers that we are part of the problem. I think I don't hear this enough. That marketeers are part of the problem. And sometimes I feel ashamed to be a marketeer. I don't know if you feel that way, Daiva, but when I introduced myself, I think we were on a call, the two of us, with one of our potential guests for the podcast, and someone said, this is so like a marketeer would organize it. And I almost felt the ick, right? I was like, no, like,
are you calling me a marketeer? I'm not a marketeer.
So that's ridiculous, right? That we have this feeling of shame almost when we talk about being marketeers. And that's why I introduced myself as a conscious marketeer, and, that we are driving change and whatsoever. But it's just because a lot of people feel that marketing is very icky, very unethical, very manipulative. And I can't say that they are wrong, So I'm like, yeah, exactly. That's what we are trying to tackle. But it does feel like a big challenge. And you were just mentioning about the word consumers. So I wanted to read here some thoughts that I wrote quite a while back. Black Friday and Cyber Monday make us see people as just consumers. When we think of people as consumers, it limits our creativity in finding ways to do better to serve our communities. It makes people seem like they are just waiting to be told what to buy. So it's really important for us to even rethink the terms that we use in the marketing industry, because they just make us see things so abstractly. When you talk about consumers, I almost don't see individuals behind the scenes.
It's a number.
I see a number. I see something very abstract, like a shopping center full of faces that you can't really see who they are, right? I think it's so important that we really start by just changing some terms that we use. It helps us as well to rethink our campaigns and what is the approach behind it, because if you can't read your campaigns, or if you can't explain your campaigns to friends or family or whatsoever, for sure there's a lack of compassion there. You feel like, wow, this campaign is so triggering. I would never put it in front of, my peers, my family, my friends, because I feel wrong about it, right? Let's stop using consumers and let's get concrete to who are we specifically addressing, so that when we are doing those campaigns, we think twice before we use those nasty language or nasty discounts or whatever it is behind it.
I really like sometimes, I don't know what you think about it, because I definitely agree consumer is not the best word, but we had this discussion inside the community of conscious marketing movement, and we were like, okay, so consumer, not a good word. What are the alternatives? And I think we said a client, the customer, but again, we're like, oh, this still doesn't really feel right. I guess what I like, at least using in the newsletters or building the sense of belonging within the community, is to address people by kind of using cute names. So, for example, I'll make it a bit clearer. One of my clients, they always say, hello, dear sustainability enthusiasts. And I really like that. It's like, dear sustainability enthusiast. And yes, we are talking to businesses, but it's kind of, I don't know, it gives this sense of belonging. It also names people. I know some fitness coaches use my warrior community or something like that to give it kind of a cool name to describe the community, and not just, dear customer.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's great. Marketing tends to be a very performance-focused industry, or is getting even more with AI behind the scenes and all of that. So we are obsessed with numbers, with data, with, getting more and more information and personalizing paths to an extent that it gets crazy. You don't see anything else besides what you agree with, right? It's scary where we are heading towards. And I don't think that this is bringing us to a more united world, but rather to a more polarized world, right?
And that's part of the problem, just the way we operate and the tasks that we do and where we put our attentions as companies and marketers as well. Partly because of that super focus on the profit and on data. Okay, I would love also now to look at the alternatives. We have discussed a lot about the damage and also gave reasons why companies should probably say no to Black Friday. Not probably, say no to Black Friday. What would you say are the alternatives? Have you seen any good examples out there?
Yes, absolutely. So for us at the Conscious Marketing Movement, we recently had an event called Navigating Black Friday, which was a mastermind, and we got together with other conscious marketeers, and we came up with a framework that we called GREEN framework. So GREEN, like it's an acronym. So guide, reinforce, engage, empower, and nurture. And so basically what we want to do with these 5 key things is, so guide, first one. We want to guide your customers with education. So that's the first thing. And for example, we looked at an example of this Colorful Standard, which is a brand that took a stand against Black Friday in 2023. They had a campaign called Do We Really Need All of That? So the idea behind this campaign was really to get people to take it slowly and educate these potential customers. Do they really need all of that? So I really found this campaign very interesting. They sell sustainable clothing. So Colorful Standard is about selling sustainable clothing. So they wanted to raise awareness about the negative impact of fast consumption in the fashion industry, which is one of the industries that keeps being mentioned again and again. The second one that we talked about was reinforce values, not discounts, right? So here we also talked about another campaign from, again, we are talking about small and medium-sized companies here, which is our key focus at the Conscious Marketing Movement. So you won't see us mention Patagonia and whatsoever. Yes, we've heard all of that. The Don't Buy This Jacket campaign. Yes, we haven't forgotten it, but we want to...
ended up selling lots of jackets.
Exactly. We want to focus on the small and medium-sized brands because the big corporations have different budgets, have different capabilities to actually make impact and change and have their own campaigns and so on. So getting back to reinforce values and not discounts. So let me see if I can pronounce the brand correctly. Palava. So they sell handcrafted clothing as well. And so this one is called Black Doesn't Suit Us and is also from 2023. Their whole idea was also to educate their audience and to, instead of having discounts, they reinforced their values. So they created this kind of Instagram carousel where they take a stand and they basically say why they don't join Black Friday and Black Doesn't Suit Us kind of approach. So it's an interesting carousel. It's not something that has gone super viral or whatsoever. That's not the idea here. We are just looking into like smaller brands and what they are doing to make a change. And so the third one was something that you already mentioned, Daiva. So the engage was engaging by volunteering time or resources. We gave an example of this brand called Deal and Camille. I believe they are in the Netherlands. And so they closed all their stores last year in 2023. They created a campaign called Green Friday. They went to volunteer in nature with their employees and so on. So I think it's really great to have alternative ways, you know, and to engage even your own teams on why we are not participating in Black Friday, because your team members are your biggest advocates at the end of the day. So I think Black Friday tends to also be very externally focused, but why not rethinking it and having it more internally focused, like educating your own team members on why we take a stand. And then the other one was empower team members with time off. So Last year, Daiva, when we launched the conscious marketing movement, we had this campaign where we were showing what were we doing on Black Friday. You know, like I remember you were walking around Italy in beautiful streets and so on. So we were just inspiring others to, you know, simply take time off for yourself and recharge instead of being part of this 2 crazy weeks of madness online. In fact, I find this time of the year very triggering, like around Black Friday, Christmas, and Cyber Monday. Somehow I always get sick around this period, I think just because of seeing all of the madness around it and feeling like, no, I don't want to be a part of this. So I have like cycles of wanting to quit the marketing industry around this period because I feel like, no, you know, we are heading towards something that I don't want to be a part of. So you probably hear my voice that is a little bit here and there. So now you know why, you know, this period is always a bit of a difficult period for me. And so the fifth example that I wanted to bring is to nurture circular economy. So we looked into a brand called My Little Green Wardrobe, and they had a campaign in the UK called Take Back Friday. So they sell kids' clothes. They wanted parents to bring back clothes that the kids no longer can use, right? Because kids keep growing, right? Unfortunately, when it comes to children, you know, within a few weeks, perhaps the clothes do not suit them anymore. People were bringing back those clothes, you know, and they would get back a voucher. So, and then they could buy secondhand or first-hand new clothes for their children. I know that this, at the end of the day, still promotes a bit of overconsumption here. Let's not get delusioned. It does promote still consumption. But at the same time, we know that with kids, there is an existing need of new clothes. So you're not creating the need. The need exists to me, right? I think that this kind of campaign may not apply to all areas of our life, but specifically I liked it for the children's clothing because it's something that indeed there is a need for new clothes from time to time. So these were like the 5 key points that we looked into. I will just repeat as a summary. So guide your customers with education, reinforce values, not discounts, engage by volunteering time or resources, empower team members with time off, and nurture the circular economy. So this is the green framework that we came up with in the conscious marketing movement together.
I love it. It gives the first step of like, okay, what are the alternatives? I can pick one of them. I would add, stay creative, because your team has so much imagination, and get everyone in the room or on the call, get their kind of creative juices going, inspire them with some examples, maybe do a workshop of like, what would you like to do as a team together on this day, and use kind of the collective consciousness and collective creativity of your team to hear what your team members want to do on this day, and maybe you can do something really meaningful. And it's also going to help you, you know, your brand reputation for sure, and long-term sales. So this is definitely a win-win solution. So this is just to say there are thousands and thousands of alternatives. You only need to be creative and start with small steps. And the first step is just to say no to Black Friday. Thank you so much, Claudia, for this conversation. And I hope you feel better. Let's get out in nature.
Absolutely. Thank you, Daiva, for this amazing discussion. I'll see you all soon.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And if you would like to learn more about what is conscious marketing and join a community of entrepreneurs and change makers, marketers, head to consciousmarketingmovement.com and join the membership.